some things old Earth creationists will say, if we're just going to take the Genesis account and just go straight down it, is they'll say that there is a gap between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. How do you respond to that argument?
First of all, almost no theologians teach that anymore. That was so back in the early 1800s. The scientists are starting to say the Earth is really old.
Hmm.
What do theologians do? They say,
Yeah.
well, hey, we have this idea. Can we rationalize that? Can we bring that into the Bible? And they come up with gap theory, day age theory, a little later on, the framework hypothesis, all these different ways to put these things together. I don't fault that first generation of theologians for thinking these things. I fault them for holding them for more than 5 minutes. They should have realized that, oh no, that doesn't work because that destroys biblical integrity and this and that and the other. But the gap theory um, was the Ryrie Study Bible. Most people in the 50s and 60s, was it Ryrie? Was it
Yeah.
Dart? Whatever it was. This is before my time, right?
Right.
So I
Right.
only know from my grandma, my parents' time, but they weren't Bible readers much. So
Right.
anyway,
Right.
there's this idea that um, the that the earth was not formless and void in the beginning, but it became formless and void. So they've added a word that's not in the Hebrew, that it became form. In other words, there was something there, and then it got covered in water. And they call that Lucifer's flood, which of course is not talked about in the Bible. And that's what would have killed off the dinosaurs.
Hmm.
And then God recreated the earth, Garden of Eden, a few thousand years ago. So it's from then on, it's all biblical.
Hmm.
But they're adding this unknown Lucifer's flood that creates a giant layer in the earth, the Cretaceous.
Mhm.
Some of them would be periodic catastrophes. There'd be multiple catastrophes of Earth history that put down each of the major layers. And then the last one would just be the one that killed off the dinosaurs. There's all sorts of different ways to handle that. Theologians don't teach you that anymore. Hardly anyone holds to it. It doesn't work grammatically. It doesn't work in the Hebrew. Um, Plus, that would mean that there's death in the world before Adam sins.
Hmm.
Lots of death, billions of years of death. And that's a massive theological problem because the Bible says that death is a punishment for sin. I mean, God told Adam, if you eat from that tree, you will definitely die. And that's what happened. Adam ate that, and that's where death and suffering comes from. This is why Jesus had to die on the cross. He had to physically die to pay for sins because God said that death is a punishment for sin. So here's Jesus. He dies in our place. If you have death before that, is death a punishment for sin? Romans 8. All these references to creation. The creation was subjected to futility. The whole creation was, that word whole there is ktisis. It means everything. Everything, I'm going to paraphrase here, was subject to the burden of sin and is groaning, waiting to be redeemed.
Yeah.
Well, in other words, the creation fell, and what we want this restoration, right? Jesus is going to come back. He's going to make all things right. He's going to restore it. But to restore something means that thing gets corrupted.
Hmm.
It had to have fallen into that state of corruption to be redeemed out of it. If sin and if death and suffering have always been there over billions of years, then the earth never changed,
Hmm.
never fell into corruption.
Right. You
That's
know,
a deep theological pool you can wade into there.